Hey guys, John here, and in this video, I'm going to cover a way to reduce JavaScript execution time in Shopify in order to help make your store load faster. As always, if anything is unclear after watching the video, leave a comment below and I'll do my best to address your questions. I have the usual demo site here that was built on Shopify's Dawn theme. It's pretty basic. It has a few products and images and a few apps installed. As you probably know, apps, useful as they are, tend to be JavaScript heavy, which increases a website's JavaScript execution time and consequently slows down its load speed. This can be problematic when it comes to how Google views your site, meaning that it will not rank it well and will increase its ad costs. So how do you make it so that the site loads reasonably fast even when you have a number of apps on it? Well, the best way, in my opinion, is to not load the troublesome apps until after the site has finished loading and the user has started interacting with it. This will significantly increase your website's load speed. The technique is sometimes referred to as lazy loading. It is essentially a way by which the loading of non-critical resources is deferred until they are needed. Non-critical resources being those that are not needed when the site first loads. You may have heard of lazy loading images in Shopify, which is where images below the fold are not loaded until the user scrolls down and brings them into view. This is the same concept, except that we're lazy loading non-critical JavaScript as opposed to images. And we load the scripts only when the user clicks anywhere on the page, scrolls, or pushes a key on the keyboard. And since the majority of Shopify apps can be deferred, lazy loading them takes nothing away from the store. So let's run a quick Lighthouse test using my demo site here to get an idea where the site stands as far as load speed. So I'll just bring up my DevTools here and go to Lighthouse. Let's run a test on mobile and pick performance. That's the only metric we're testing right now. Now you'll notice that I'm running the test in an incognito window. This is so there's no interference from browser extensions or anything else of the sort. I'll hit Analyze Page Load, and I'm going to fast forward through this. There's no sense in you guys sitting through it. We see that we get a performance score of 64. Now, the Lighthouse test performance score does fluctuate a bit between tests, so it's best to run it a few times, say 4 or 5. And then take the average of the results. But for the sake of expediency, we'll just do 2 here. So I'll run one more. Everything stays the same. I'm just going to hit Analyze Page Load and fast forward through this. We get 67, so our average score is 65.5, and we'll just round it off to 66. Now, if we scroll down a bit to the diagnostics section right here, we see a red mark that says reduce JavaScript execution time. And if we expand that, then we find the culprits. These are source URLs for scripts that get injected by Shopify into our store's theme. If we look at the list, we see these URLs at the top here, which are mostly for tracking scripts. Shopify's tracking, there's Google Tag Manager and others. But we also see this here that says Lucky Orange. This is a heat map app that I installed in this store. It essentially helps a store owner understand why some visitors aren't converting. If we scroll down some more, we see another app that I installed called Rebuy Engine, and another one called Privy. All 3 of these are apps that I randomly picked and installed for this example. But what we're going to cover here can be applied to the overwhelming majority of Shopify apps. And while these can be useful to a store, according to the Lighthouse test, they increase our JavaScript execution time and negatively affect our site's load speed. So what we need to do is add some code to our website inside the head element so that none of these 3 apps are loaded until our visitor starts to interact with the store. And we do that in 2 steps. First, we add code to prevent Shopify from automatically injecting the scripts for those apps. Then we add code to load the scripts once the user has either clicked anywhere on the site, scrolled, or hit any key on the keyboard. These three actions are going to be what we consider to be user interaction, which pretty much covers everything a user can do on a website. So let's do that. Actually, let's take a look in the Elements tab here to see the actual scripts that load the apps. And then after we put in the code to prevent the apps from loading, we'll take another look to see if they're still showing or not. So I'll do Control F to bring up the search box here, and then I'll search for Lucky Orange. And here we see the script that loads it. I'll do Rebuy next. And we can see that script right here. And then we'll do Privy. And its script is right here. And now, to prevent Shopify from injecting the app scripts when the site first loads, let's search for a function called async load. This function right here. This is the function that Shopify currently uses to inject app scripts into a store. If we look inside the function, we see this URLs variable that equals this array of URLs with the escaped forward slashes. And what we need to do is remove the URLs for our three apps from this list. And that will prevent the apps from being loaded. And we can do that via a code snippet called content for header. This is the code snippet that includes the async load function. Here's how. First, let's copy all the URLs that will need to be removed from the async load function. So inside this array right here, we'll look for the URLs that pertain to our three apps. And let me just copy this code here to a notepad here so that we can see and work with it better. Now let's copy the URLs for our three apps. First, we have Lucky Orange right here. Put that here. Then the Rebuy Engine, which is right here. And lastly, Privy, which is right here. Then let's go to our Shopify's back office or dashboard. Right here, click on Online Store. Then these three dots here, and then Edit Code. This will bring up the code editor for our theme. In the Dawn theme, we want to modify this theme.liquid file, which happens to be already open on mine here, but it lives in this layout folder right here. If you're using a different theme, then this file may be called something else. So once here, we look for the content for header snippet. So we do Control F and search for content for header. There it is. Let me scroll down a bit. Now we apply the remove filter to content header just before we call it right here, like so. Assign content for header, and that's going to equal content for header. The pipe sign, we do remove colon, and here we will put our first URL to be removed. This one right here. Copy that, come here and paste it and save. Let me go back down to where content for header is. There it is. This now has removed the Lucky Orange URL from the async load function. Let me just paste in this comment here. It's a good habit to get into to help make code easier to read and maintain. And never mind this red dotted line right here. Shopify puts that in there sometimes for whatever reason. Code should work fine. Now, if we come to our website and do a refresh, we see that the site loads just as normal, but if we search for the lucky orange script tag, it's not there. That script is no longer being injected into the site, which means that the lucky orange app is not being loaded, which is what we want. So let's filter out the other two URLs. We'll go back to the dashboard, and all we have to do is repeat this assign tag for each of the other two URLs. So I'll just copy it twice. And then add the correct or the right URLs. That. Like so. Save. This now will prevent the scripts for all three apps from running. Now, this code will work, and you can certainly leave it like this if you prefer. But a better way to write it from a coding standpoint would be to do this. I'm just going to paste in the modified code, and then I'll go over it with you. I'll hit save. So what we're doing is we're assigning a variable here called URLs to remove, and we're setting it equal to the URLs for our three apps. The URLs are comma separated, and we put each URL in its own line for better visualization. Then we add a strip new lines filter to remove the line breaks that we put in there. Then we add a replace filter to remove any blank spaces in between the URLs. Then we split the string into an array by commas. So this creates a liquid code array containing the URLs we want to remove from the content for header snippet. And it makes it quicker to add another URL should we need to at some point in the future. All we'd have to do is do a comma here, come down here, and add our URL. Like so. Now let me remove this. And now we'll just loop through the array and remove the URLs one by one from the content for header snippet. And we'll do that using this snippet right here. I'll go over it with you. Let me just hit save. So what this does is it takes each URL inside of this URLs to remove array and then removes it from the content for header. So now I can come here and remove this old code here. We don't need it anymore. I'll hit save. Make sure you call this content for header below the assign tags here. Otherwise, none of that will take effect. So now if we come back here, do a refresh, and look in our Elements tab for our app URLs, we'll see that none of the script tags that load the three apps are there anymore. We look for Lucky Orange, it's not there. Preview, it's not there. And then Rebuy, and that's not there either. We can even look at the async load function and see that the URLs for our three apps are no longer inside this variable right here. And now let's run a Lighthouse test and see what that gives us. New report, and same thing, we'll do mobile and performance and then hit analyze. We get a performance score of 75. I'll run one more test and take the average of the two. We get 78 and an average of 76.5 between the two, or 77 rounded off. which is clearly higher than the 66 average we had before, preventing the apps from loading. And this is just with 3 apps. Most Shopify stores have quite a bit more than just 3 apps installed. And if we scroll down and look in the diagnostics section, if we expand reduced JavaScript execution time now, we'll see that the tracking script URLs are still here, but none of our apps are mentioned anymore. So that takes care of the first step. Now we need to make our apps load once the user has started interacting with the site. To do this, we'll need to add the following code to the same file in our theme, the theme.liquid file. And I'll include a link to this code in a description below. And I'm going to do the same as before, where I just paste in the code and then go over it. So let me scroll down to where our content for header is, and then I'll paste in the script right here and hit save. So up here, we just have a comment to explain what the code is doing. We start our script here with the opening script tag. Here we convert our liquid code array from before to a JavaScript array. This is the array that contains the URLs that were removed from content for header. Here we define our inject scripts function. This is the function that's going to inject our apps back into the store once the user interacts with the site. It's going to loop through the URLs in the script URLs array, and then for each URL, it'll create the script element. It'll add a script type, in this case text / JavaScript. It'll add the script source, and we'll need to replace the escaped forward slashes with just plain regular /. Otherwise, the script won't work. Some of these URLs will have these encoded ampersands in them. We'll need to replace them with the ampersand symbol for the code to work right. Here, we just add in the script element we just created to the head element of our HTML. And then the last thing the function does is remove all URLs from the script URLs array once all of the script elements have been created and added to the head. This way, they don't just keep getting created every time the user does something on the site. And lastly, we add event listeners to call our inject scripts function once the user clicks, scrolls, or hits a keyboard key, which are the 3 events that we use to determine user interaction. And again, I'll leave this code or a link to it in the description below. So now, if I come back here to the site, do a refresh, come back here to the Elements tab, and look for our apps, Lucky Orange, Rebuy, and Privy, we see that there are no scripts in the DOM that load them. The only mention of the apps is here in this script that we put in to load them after user interaction. And if we double check the async load function, we see that they're still not in the URLs array. Let me run another Lighthouse test just to double check the performance score. We get a score of 76, which is in the same range as before, and above the 66 average we got before we stopped the apps from initially loading. And if we look down here at the reduced JavaScript execution time error or warning, we see that our apps are still not being mentioned, meaning that they haven't been loaded. Then if I interact with the site, and I'll do that via scrolling because it's the only way you can see the interaction on the video, then come back here to the Elements tab and search for Lucky Orange, we see that the script that loads it is now there. I'll check the other 2. So for Privy, the script is there. For rebuy, the script is there also, right here. And that's it. That covers a way to reduce JavaScript execution time in Shopify. I hope you found the video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.